Madhurima is now joining us live on the broadcast. Madhurima, we just saw that report that you sent to us from the international airport, and extremely important because like you're telling us that random testing at international airports for foreign travelers has already begun. Apart from that, the increased checkpoints that have been placed, and most importantly, how the government now being very careful with the 3 cases that have been detected with the BF7 variant, and now masks are a must. Indoors and outdoors, crowds must be avoided. So those guidelines are back in place now.
Well, yes, absolutely, Swesha. Being prudent, the health ministry is on the 5th gear and they are taking every measure that is there in the COVID-19 combat book in place. They are implementing all of them. They have already sent out a caution that all in crowded place must wear mask. The COVID appropriate behavior should be put in place, and the common people should start practicing the COVID appropriate behavior, because it's better to be prudent than to regret it later. However, if we talk about the meetings that are being conducted, yesterday there was a meeting that was conducted by the health minister where ICMR, DG ICMR officials from the INSACOG and the AIMS director, along with those high officials from the COVID task force, all of them attended that meeting where ground rules were laid. And today the Prime Minister will be reviewing the situation and will also be giving his 2 bits to make sure that if any other wave strikes the country, how will India be combating it. He will also be taking the stock of situation in multiple states and will be asking for an action plan as far as the demographics of different states are concerned. Also, he will also be taking the stock of situation of the vaccination, because as far as the booster doses are concerned, the booster doses have not been inoculated. The numbers are not very pleasant. So the health ministry has also said that those specific with morbidities
in fact,
should go ahead and take
breaking
the
news
booster
that we are just flashing on our screens right now. We are picking up from our sources that no non-stop flights from China to India are now allowed. These flights are diverted via Singapore and Hong Kong. Also, the government will review if indirect flights are to be restricted or not. So as far as banning flights from China is concerned, given the situation there, this is one step ahead, because no direct flights from China will now be allowed in India. This is the advisory that has been issued, and we'll try and put out details of what the Indian Medical Association is also saying. But in the meanwhile, as far as the situation at the international airports is concerned in India, no non-stop flights from China are now allowed to land. Only flights that are coming via Singapore or Hong Kong will be allowed in India. In fact, details that are just coming in from our sources that the government is set to review if indirect flights are to be restricted or not. Remember, there has been a massive spike in cases, especially in China, and followed by that are Japan, South Korea, USA. But China in particular, where the situation is worrisome when it comes to COVID. And now the center is stepping up measures, as 3 cases of the BF7 variant have already been detected in India. Remember, it's highly transmissible, which is why the center is now bracing to ensure that we are fighting this to the T. Also, the Indian Medical Association putting out an advisory that must be followed, where face masks should be used in all public places, social distancing must be maintained, regular hand washing with soap and water or sanitizers must be followed, public gatherings like marriages, political or social meetings, etc. must be avoided, international travel must be avoided. The doctor must be consulted in case of any symptoms like fever, sore throat, cough, loose motions, etc. Also, COVID vaccination, including precautionary dose, must be taken at the earliest, and the government advisory that is issued from time to time must be taken very seriously by every single person. Harsha, I want to come to you, because this is important and this must be taken very seriously. No one must be complacent now. The Indian Medical Association putting out a fresh set of guidelines. They've issued this advisory. Take us through the details.
Now, what we are learning is that IMA has issued the fresh advisory amid this COVID outbreak. IMA has clearly stated that the COVID protocol has to be followed. The mask has to be made mandatory. If there are crowded places, if there's someone is going for a festival, then mask should be worn. And the places where the crowd is not, the proper protocol should be followed. Proper guidelines should be initiated, from social distancing to COVID protocols to using of mask and sanitizer should be initiated. And IMA has clearly stated that there's an upsurge in China, Brazil, US and Japan as well. So India has to be prepared, and therefore all the hospitals have to be prepared for it. IMA has also stated that they will speak to various hospitals as well regarding the preparation, what they are doing ahead of this COVID, because already there are 4 cases which has been reported in India so far, which has come from Jaipur, from Gujarat and Odisha. So this is a new advisory what we are seeking from IMA. Back to you.
Oh yes, that's what is coming in from doctors, as the IMA has issued this fresh advisory. Meanwhile, Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandaviya has made a statement in both houses of the Parliament on COVID-19. We'll try and put out those statements. But remember, he had made it very clear that the Health Ministry is now putting out a warning. We must be careful. And an announcement to this effect has been made both in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha on COVID-19. The advisory must be taken very seriously, is what the IMA is saying. And all the precautions that needed to be followed